Today in part 3, I'm going to talk through the fall of the Italian Renaissance and the legacy it leaves us today. Italian and European scientists contributed to a dramatic scientific revolution in this period. The Italian universities of Padova, Bologna and Pisa were preeminent scientific centres of study. Copernicus came from Poland and proposed a theory that placed the sun rather than the earth at the centre of the universe, and he studied in Bologna and Padova. Niccolò Fontana Tartaglia was a mathematician and an engineer who produced the first Italian translations of Archimedes and Euclid. Fallopio was a physician who was interested in anatomy, surgery and botany. Vesalius was born in modern-day Belgium. He was a physician and an author of an influential book on human anatomy. As well as a professor in Padova, he was also the imperial physician at the court of Emperor Charles V. Vesalius was also a professor who stole the executed bodies and examined them, making detailed models. Galileo was an astronomer, a physicist and an engineer who championed the ideas of Copernicus. The Earth rotated round the Sun. Evangelista Torricelli was an Italian physicist and mathematician who invented the barometer. Luca Pacioli published books on mathematics and bookkeeping. Simon Stevin worked in maths and physics, developing theories on hydraulic engineering. Adventurers explored the globe and brought back new items and experiences. Italian maritime republics served European monarchs during this age. Niccolò da Conti travelled to Southeast Asia, returning with new knowledge and laying a path for future exploration. Amerigo Vespucci discovered the New World for Spain and Portugal, and the country of America is named after him. Christopher Columbus of Genoa travelled to the Caribbean, Central America and South America on behalf of Spain. Giovanni da Verrazzano explored North America for France. John Cabot travelled to North America on behalf of England. Renaissance thinkers developed philosophy, including Galileo, Machiavelli, Giordano Bruno, and Pico della Mirandola, emphasizing naturalism and Renaissance humanism, and rejected religious dogma. The northern Italian Renaissance cities were dominated by the trading elite. They had the vast majority of the wealth and were both the patrons and the audience for Renaissance culture. A large middle class of craftsmen and governors lived comfortably and wielded a lot of power and influence. They were both literate and educated and part of the Renaissance culture. The Italian Renaissance only impacted the higher classes of society. The majority of the population remained poor, semi-skilled or unemployed, and completely remote from the Renaissance. 3/4 of the people still lived as rural peasants. The rural population knew nothing about the Renaissance and still lived as before, under feudalism. The Italian Renaissance waned due to war and repression. Machiavelli argued that the golden age of the Florence Renaissance died with Lorenzo de' Medici in 1492, as well as with the invasion of the barbarians, the French. It was indeed internal disputes and foreign invasions which triggered the Italian wars between 1494 and 1559, which proceeded to devastate northern Italy. City-states lost their fought for independence. The Medici rule of Florence from 1512 is described as late phase Renaissance. Mannerism faced heavy resistance from the church. In 1542, the Roman Inquisition banned a range of Renaissance literary works, humanism, which they considered heresy. The monk Savonarola declared Florence the New Jerusalem, the world centre of Christianity, and he led a backlash against the Renaissance, burning artworks. considered sinful in the episode Bonfire of the Vanities in the heart of Florence. Indeed, the Roman Inquisition put Galileo Galilei on trial for heresy. He was found guilty of his work was banned and he lived under house arrest. As the Italian Renaissance collapsed, its ideas and influence had already begun to spread across Europe. Italy's greatest artists moved abroad. Leonardo da Vinci left for France in 1516. In 1527, imperial troops of Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, sacked Rome. The Pope, a major patron of Renaissance art and architecture, was imprisoned, and his Swiss guards were nearly wiped out. Others created the School of Fontainebleau in France as a result of the sack of Rome, which proceeded to influence art across northern Europe. Northern Italy was the musical centre of Europe, beginning the transition to the Baroque period. 16th century music was both secular as well as sacred, the Mass. Compositions began to use keyboard improvisation. Venetian school music developed monody and opera as it began to move outside of Italy. Florentine camerata focused on drama and music, also paving the way for opera. Claudio Monteverdi was a pioneer composer whose work would help pave the way for opera. The most famous composer was Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina of the Roman school. He produced both secular and religious work and was studied by Johann Sebastian Bach. The madrigal was a secular form of music which spread across Europe, championed by Jacques Arcadelt, Cipriano de Rore, Luca Marenzio, Philippe de Monte, Carlo Gesualdo. Early forms of the violin were invented in late Renaissance Italy, and these would soon be enhanced by future luthiers like Stradivari. The Italian Renaissance humanists had highlighted the beauty of the body in their poetry, their art and their literature. Virtue and external beauty were often linked. Renaissance literature was influenced by Christianity, classical antiquity, scholarship and politics. The Tuscan dialect as a language was in common use across northern Italy and commonly used in literature. The humanist poet Francesco Petrarch wrote poetry in Latin and in Tuscan dialect. These were love sonnets based on his unrequited love for Laura. His work was translated into English, where the sonnet form was adopted by William Shakespeare. Giovanni Boccaccio wrote the Decameron, a collection of stories by people fleeing the plague in Florence. The Decameron inspired English authors including Geoffrey Chaucer and William Shakespeare. Niccolò Machiavelli reviewed the exercise of power and politics in The Prince, in a humanist style, reviewing ancient and recent incidents. Luigi Pulci, Morganta, Matteo Maria Boiardo, Orlando Innamorato, Ludovico Ariosto, Orlando Furioso, and Torquato Tasso, Jerusalem Delivered. Baldassare Castiglione published the Book of the Courtier, a book on etiquette. You will read that some people claim the Renaissance never happened. So I'm going to try and clarify my thoughts on this. The Renaissance relates to a period when early knowledge of ancient Greece and Roman Empire was lost to the Western Europe during the Middle Ages and rediscovered in Western Europe during the Renaissance. In many cases, these discoveries were only circulated within the higher levels of society and the church. Indeed, the church at the same time constrained the progress of the Renaissance, typically on the grounds of heresy. But what is undeniable that some of the advances made were to the benefit of wider mankind. Some of the things produced, some of the art and the literature and the culture are still influential today. While they weren't necessarily communicated at the time, they would be more widely advertised later when wealthy people embarked on the grand tour. Well, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video and subscribe so that others can see it. Click here for some more videos you may be interested in.